She was expelled from the house where she grew up as a daughter, and found love again where she least expected it. It was a hot summer afternoon in New Jersey, in the year 1810. The smell of freshly cut hay mixed with the aroma of fresh milk coming from the barns of the largest farm on the East Coast, Bucher Farm. Among the trees that bordered the river, 2 children ran barefoot, laughing as if the world consisted only of that moment. Lily Thompson and Adam Bucher, both 10 years old, were inseparable. They grew up together on the Bucher property. Lily, daughter of Jasmine, the house governess, and Adam, heir to the family fortune, saw no difference between them. Their hearts already knew what the world's eyes could not yet accept. George Bucher, patriarch of the family, was a businessman, but with a sensitive soul. He would sit with his teacup on the porch and watch the 2 little ones playing, with a tenderness that only he seemed capable of showing in the imposing Bucher house. His wife, Catherine, was of another type. Arrogant, rigid, marked by the coldness of elite salons and an obsession with status. Jasmine endured everything in silence. She knew that work on the farm was all she had, and that, to secure a future for her daughter, it was better to swallow her pride. Mornings on the farm began early. The rooster crowed, the sun broke lazily over the hills, and Lily was the first to get up. She helped her mother with breakfast, then ran to find Adam. They would hide in the barn, ride imaginary horses, build castles with hay bales. Lily knew her condition was different, the servant's daughter, but in those moments with Adam, she was princess of a kingdom where no one told her to be quiet. Catherine, however, already showed her aversion. "Intrusive girl, always clinging to my son like a tick," she would say through gritted teeth, not even bothering to disguise it. George, on the other hand, would laugh. "Let them be children. Soon the world will separate them. Don't be the first blow of their lives." But Catherine saw in Lily a silent threat. Not only to the house's structure, but to the order of things. When Lily turned 12, she began studying with Adam's tutor. George had insisted, "She's intelligent. It will be good for both of them." Catherine was reluctant, but gave in, only because she didn't want to argue in public. Lily showed aptitude for languages, especially French. Adam, who hated grammar, began paying more attention in class just to see her smile when translating passages from Molière. But what was charming to some was provocation to others. Catherine began to watch. With each laugh between the 2, each exchange of notes, each shared silence in the garden, she felt the ground slipping away. Lily's father was a mystery. Jasmine never spoke of him. Some said he had been a sailor, others that he was a gentleman from the city. Catherine loved to spread doubts. The summer of Lily's 15th year was the last of innocence. Adam had turned 16. He was tall, dark-haired, with piercing blue eyes, heir to a promising future. Lily was blossoming. Her dresses were beginning to fail to hide her figure, and her mother's serene beauty was now reflected in her with multiplied force. One afternoon by the river, Adam touched her hand. "You're no longer a little girl." "And I think I never stopped liking you." Lily laughed nervously. "You speak as if the world would allow. And if it doesn't allow it, Lily? What do we do?" She hesitated, then answered, "We wait. We wait to grow up, wait to be able to choose. Wait for the right time." It was there that Catherine decided to act. A woman of surgical, cold actions, who knew how to wait for the exact moment to knock down a piece from the board. And it came in the form of a disappearance. The Bucher family's pearl necklace, an heirloom of generations, mysteriously vanished. The accusations fell on Jasmine like an axe on a trunk. Cruel, unfounded, relentless. "You're the only one who enters this house besides the family," Catherine screamed, her eyes narrow as daggers. George hesitated, tried to intervene. But Catherine, with flimsy evidence and sharp words, convinced everyone. For the first time, Jasmine raised her voice. "I endured humiliations, but theft no." That same night, under the rain that began to fall on the fields, mother and daughter were expelled. Lily had no time for goodbyes. Adam was on a short trip with his father, visiting lands to the north. When he returned, he found only silence. Lily's absence was a void that not even time could disguise. In the city, Jasmine and Lily found shelter at Mrs. Wilker's boarding house. A small room, a narrow bed, and the world crumbling around them. Lily cried for weeks. The lack of Adam was like an open wound, pulsing with longing. Jasmine, already sick at heart, sewed to live, while Lily delivered bread in the mornings. Catherine never revealed that the necklace had been found, right at the bottom of her own wardrobe. She preferred the lie to humiliation. George, devastated, remained silent. Omission was his greatest betrayal. Lily grew up fast. She learned to defend herself, to negotiate, not to trust so easily. At 17, she began working in a bakery. At 19, she started waiting tables in a bar frequented by students. It was a harsh environment, where she learned to dodge bold hands and crude words. But she never lost her dignity. She kept her memories with Adam like someone protecting a sacred jewel. On a cold winter night, already 21 years old, she was serving a table near the counter when she heard a voice. Familiar, warm, almost a whisper against the wind. "Lily!" He turned, startled. A young man in a worn suit with teary eyes stood there. "How do you know my name?" He took a step forward. "Lily, I would recognize you covered in snow. Little rabbit. How I missed you." The tray fell. Time stopped. "Adam, only you called me that." The embrace was long. She trembled. So did he. They sat down, exchanged stories, pains, silences. Lily spoke of her mother's death, sleepless nights, humiliations. Adam told about law school, how he searched for her tirelessly. He said he never believed the theft story, and that he never loved another woman. That same week, Adam got Lily a job at the college library. He also got her a decent room in a boarding house for young ladies. He helped her enroll in evening classes. Lily, thirsty for life, dove into her studies. She laughed more, slept better. The walks returned. Hands held in autumn. Promises whispered among leaves that fell like blessings. But Catherine had not finished her work. When she learned, through a letter from a gossipy cousin, that Adam was living with a young woman of dubious past, she packed her bags. She appeared at the lodging without warning. Adam and Lily were arriving from college. They could see the mother's eyes in time's rearview mirror. The same judgment, the same coldness. "Your colleague, I presume," said Catherine, pointing at Lily with disdain. Adam took a deep breath. "No, my mother. This is Lily, the girl you expelled from our house. The woman I love." Lily maintained her composure. "How are you, Mrs. Bucher?" Catherine turned her face away. "Adam, I will not allow. I'm 23 years old. I don't need your approval. I love Lily. I always have." She left without saying another word. In the following days, rumors began. Anonymous letters circulated among Lily's professors. A rumor that she had been the mistress of a married merchant almost made her lose her position at the library. But Adam intervened. He made formal complaints and began investigating the source of the letters. It was Catherine, using a former servant to spread lies. Adam confronted his mother. He said that if she continued, he would never see her again. George, now an aged and silent man, intervened. He tried to calm tempers, but Adam was decided. He would build his life with Lily. Subscribe to the channel to follow the continuation of this engaging story. In the next chapters, you'll see the obstacles that still await Adam and Lily, the secrets of the past that insist on coming to light, and the love that, even wounded, persists. Tell me, have you ever loved someone that fate separated you from? Do you believe that reunions are the work of chance or divine providence? Share your story. Autumn painted the streets of Princeton with shades of gold and fire. The trees let their leaves fall with the same elegance with which society brought down reputations. Lily, now 22 years old, was no longer the frightened young woman from Mrs. Wilker's boarding house. Her eyes had learned to read the intentions behind smiles, and her hands knew how to work, study, and fight with dignity. Still, the reunion with Adam rekindled in her a feeling that time had not managed to erase, only hide. Adam, for his part, was torn between the promise of a future as a lawyer and the certainty that without Lily, no success would have flavor. He knew his mother would not back down. Catherine Bucher was like a storm, devastating, persistent, and cold. But he also knew he was no longer a boy. He was a grown man. and he would do anything to protect what he felt for Lily. At the university, Lily stood out. The head librarian praised her openly. Professors commented on her dedication. Some students, especially the young men, were enchanted by her discreet beauty and her dignified manner. But Lily kept her distance. Not out of arrogance but out of loyalty. Although her love for Adam was discreet, it was deep like a hidden river between mountains. On Sunday nights, Adam and Lily would walk through the campus, discussing books, remembering childhood, and dreaming of a simple future. A modest house, perhaps children, a garden in the back. But they knew that reality would not bend to dreams so easily. Catherine, wounded by her son's rebellion, increased her offensive. She hired a detective to follow Lily. She sent letters to distant relatives, spreading the version that the young woman was an opportunist. And finally, she wrote to the university rector, insinuating that Lily used her charm to obtain academic advantages. It was a difficult week. Lily was called for a conversation with the administration. Tears formed in her eyes when she heard the accusations, but she remained firm. She denied everything with clarity and courage. Adam intervened once again, bringing testimonies, proof of Lily's integrity, and a letter written by his mother to an aunt, in which she confirmed her hatred for the young woman. The truth came to light, and with it, the respect of many. But not everything was war. There was sweetness in small things. Adam took her to see plays, taught her constitutional law. She prepared sandwiches for him on exam days. Lily began to laugh lightly again. One night, during an autumn fair, he knelt in the middle of the square and offered her a simple silver ring with a small ruby. "I can't promise fortune, but I can promise fidelity. Will you marry me, Lily?" She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes shone, but there was fear. "Are you sure, Adam? They'll never leave us alone. Your family will persecute us. Then we'll go where they can't reach us. Love you. And I don't want to live away from you anymore." She accepted. They began preparations for a small ceremony. University friends supported them. Lily sewed her own dress. The rector offered the college garden as the ceremony location. The future seemed to smile, even if timidly. But fate, always with its ironies, was preparing a blow. George Bucher, Adam's father, had a nervous breakdown. He had been found trembling, sitting in the living room, repeating Lily's name. Adam rushed there. He found his father debilitated, and something more. A letter in his hands, written by Jasmine, Lily's mother. The letter was a secret that would change everything. In it, Jasmine told George that she understood his silence, but that Lily deserved to know the truth. The letter had been written shortly before Jasmine's death, but never sent. It was hidden in a false bottom of the desk that George was now reviewing amid his mental confusion. Adam read the letter with trembling hands. "George, if this letter ever reaches you, It's because my health no longer allows me to remain silent. Lily is your daughter. You know. You always knew. Our love was brief but real. When I learned of the pregnancy, it was too late. You had your obligations, your name, your reputation. I never asked for anything. Just dignity. Just respect for our daughter. If she ever finds out, let it be from your hands. And let her know that she wasn't born from sin, but from love that couldn't flourish. Jasmine. Adam's ground crumbled. Lily. His sister. He ran to her, his teary breathing heavy. She smiled when she saw him. What happened, Adam? You're pale. He fell to his knees. Lily. My mother lied all her life. My father. He is your father too. The silence was like an explosion. Lily brought her hands to her mouth, took 2 steps back. No. It can't be. It can't be, Adam. He extended the letter. She read it. The words seemed to bleed. Jasmine. George. Daughter. Siblings. She collapsed. They spent days locked in pain. The wedding was cancelled. The rings returned. Hope buried. Adam wouldn't leave his room. Lily returned to the boarding house. She cried at night, screamed in silence. But a week later, the truth revealed itself even more cruel. George, in his delirium, murmured another confession to the nurse. She wasn't my daughter. Jasmine lied to protect me. She wanted Lily to have a right to something. But she wasn't my daughter. She was the daughter of a gentleman who abandoned her. I just loved her as a daughter, even without being one. Adam heard. He returned to the desk. He found another letter from Jasmine herself to a friend, explaining that she used George's name as a way to guarantee respect for Lily, but that the real father was a British diplomat who disappeared after learning of the pregnancy. Blood did not unite them. He ran to Lily. You're not my sister. You never were. It was all a lie to protect you. She fell into his arms, crying. Then we can. Yes, there's still time. If you still want to. They rescheduled the wedding. And this time there was no garden, no guests. They married in a simple chapel at the foot of a mountain, before a pastor and 2 friends. Lily wore the same dress, now mended. Adam wore his heart open. Winter was approaching, painting Princeton in gray tones. But for Lily and Adam, the cold was just a detail in the face of the warmth that was reborn between them. Married, finally, and free from a secret that almost destroyed them, they decided to restart their lives with what they had: love, dignity, and faith. They moved to a small house on the outskirts of town, simple, with walls that still smelled of fresh paint and windows that let the sun enter gently. Adam found work at a modest law firm, helping immigrants and workers deal with civil matters. Lily was accepted as an assistant at the university library, the same one that once almost expelled her for slander. Now the same corridors welcomed her with respect. But peace has its time counted when the winds of the past insist on blowing. The first storm came disguised as an official letter. Catherine Bucher had filed a lawsuit against her own son, contesting his sanity and ability to manage the part of the inheritance that belonged to him. She used the emotional collapse of the broken and restored marriage as a legal argument. She declared before the court that Adam acted under the manipulation of a young woman, without breeding, without name, and with clear signs of disguised ambition. The accusation wounded like a blade. "She won't rest, Lily," Adam said, burning the letter in the fireplace. "But neither will I. Not anymore." Standing beside the lawyer who had taken his case, Adam launched a counterattack. He would not only defend his sanity, but file a defamation suit against his own mother. The town buzzed. Local newspapers exploited the family tragedy like a scandalous soap opera. Lily avoided going out. Neighbors whispered as she passed. The local church where they tried to congregate became divided. Some welcomed them, others distanced themselves, swayed by Catherine's influence. But Lily, though hurt, never backed down. "If God is for us, who can be against us?" she told her husband every morning. Amid the legal chaos, another truth came to light. While sorting through old documents left by George Bucher, Adam found records of monthly donations sent by Jasmine to an institution deep in rural Virginia. Moved by curiosity, or perhaps by a restlessness he couldn't name, he went there. The orphanage was in ruins, but an elderly woman still tended to the place. Her name was Miss Alberta. When Adam showed her Jasmine's letter, her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Jasmine, what a beautiful soul. She helped us for years. And she left a child here. Boy. Said he was the son of someone important, but that she couldn't raise him." Adam froze. "A boy. What was his name?" "We called him Elijah. She only said it was the name of a prophet because that boy had a great destiny. He was adopted by a family in Boston." Adam returned home carrying more than papers. He carried the weight of a broken lineage. He told Lily, who remained silent for hours. "Could it be? Do I have a brother, Adam? A half-brother? Alive somewhere out there?" It was possible. More than that, it was likely. They began the search. Wrote to the orphanage, scoured records, consulted adoption lawyers. For months, they bounced between hope and frustration. Until, on a freezing February afternoon, a response arrived. Elijah Moore, 24 years old, architecture student. Boston address. Phone number. Lily didn't know how to proceed. She wrote a letter, then tore it up. Picked up the phone, then hung up. Adam finally said, "Let's go to him. If he won't hear us out, at least we tried." They traveled that weekend. Knocked on the door of a small apartment in downtown Boston. Elijah greeted them with a tired smile. He was tall, dark, with eyes that mirrored Jasmine's. Lily swallowed hard. Are you Elijah Moore? Yes. How can I help you? Adam stepped in. We have reason to believe you're Lily's brother, Jasmine's son, left at an orphanage in Virginia. Silence. Elijah looked at them as if he'd seen ghosts, then invited them in. He listened to the story attentively. Said his adoptive mother always spoke of a mysterious woman who left him at the orphanage with a jasper brooch, the same style of brooch Lily had inherited from Jasmine. Records and paperwork confirmed it. They were siblings. Lily felt as if she had found a long-lost piece of herself. Elijah, kind and intense, quickly grew close. He visited on weekends, bonded with Adam like a younger brother. He was wise, funny, and carried an artistic sensitivity that charmed them. But where there is light, shadows stir. Catherine learned about the newfound brother and claimed it was a ruse to distract from the lawsuit. She said Lily was recruiting allies to manipulate the inheritance. She hired investigators to dig into Elijah's adoption and tried to annul Adam and Lily's marriage in court, citing fraudulent family origin. Faced with such venom, Lily nearly gave in. But Adam held her in his arms, his eyes burning with the strength of a man who does not flee from war. You are my home. You are my truth. We will not back down. And then, another thread of fate wove itself into the narrative. Lily discovered she was pregnant. The news fell like gentle rain on a scorched field. For the first time in months, they wept with joy. Elijah danced around the room with her in his arms. Adam knelt and kissed her belly. Our child will be born knowing the truth, and will live in freedom. But now the battle had new meaning. Catherine, upon hearing of the pregnancy, went mad with rage. She swore she would never allow a bastard daughter of scandal to raise the Bucher heir. She filed a preventive custody lawsuit, declaring Adam emotionally unstable and Lily socially unfit. The case took on national proportions. New York newspapers covered the hearing. Scholars and lawyers across the country debated. Social media, still in its early form, buzzed with forums and open letters. The judge assigned to the case was known for his severity, and, to everyone's surprise, agreed to open the hearing. The condition was clear. The past conduct of all involved would be scrutinized, their character exposed, their intentions weighed. Lily was guided by a lawyer who taught her to speak her name with firmness, to tell her story without shame. Adam, in turn, prepared like a general before battle. Elijah assisted with research, documents, and witness statements. Winter had given its last breaths, and spring began to timidly bloom over Princeton, painting bare branches with subtle greens. Adam and Lily's modest home radiated a warmth that defied the cold outside. The air brimmed with the promise of rebirth, and inside, The expectation of new life shaped every moment. Lily walked through their makeshift garden with a serenity that defied the winds still blowing against them. Her rounded belly revealed she carried the future within her, not one marked by the chains of the past, but forged by their own hands. Each step was a silent manifesto of the love that bound them, the faith that sustained them, and the courage to press on even as the world threatened to crumble. Adam moved through his daily routine with near superhuman strength. The weight of battles fought and those looming pressed on his shoulders, but in his eyes burned the fire of a man fighting not for glory, but for dignity, for the legacy of the child yet to be born. At his legal office, he defended immigrants and workers, his words thunderous in quiet rebellion against injustice. Yet it was in the quiet moments, when Lily's hand rested on her belly, that Adam found his truest purpose. Lily had resumed her role in the university library with determination. The same halls that once sought to expel her now welcomed her with hard-won respect. She had become a guardian of memory, a living bridge between past and present. Every book she touched, every page she organized, reaffirmed her identity, a silent answer to the voices that had tried to erase her. There, among the scent of aged paper and whispered stories, Lily found the strength to face what lay ahead. But Catherine Bucher did not relent. Like a storm that refused to dissipate, her attacks grew more vicious. It wasn't enough to wage legal war. She extended her assaults to the couple's social and religious life. At the church they attended, the division was palpable. Suspicious glances, whispered judgments, people pulling away out of fear or self-interest. The sacred ground had become a battleground. Yet for every retreat, someone stood firm, upheld by the belief that true love and justice would prevail. Lily and Adam learned to navigate these turbulent waters with patience, faith, and a courage born of necessity. In that uncertain landscape, Elijah took on a crucial role. More than a newfound brother, he became an anchor, a steady presence that healed invisible wounds. His weekly visits brought laughter, deep conversations, and the living memory of Jasmine, not as a ghost of the past, but as a legacy of tenderness and resilience. Elijah, with his gentle spirit and quiet smile, bonded with Adam and Lily not just through blood, but through shared soul, a chosen family fortified by scars. On the day of the hearing, Lily entered the courtroom serene, her belly showing the gentle curve of pregnancy. Head held high, gaze steady, she faced the tribunal. 4 hours they listened to testimonies, read Jasmine's letters, examined adoption records, heard teachers, pastors, doctors. They saw photos of the simple home where they lived, and listened to defenses that were more than legal arguments. They were cries for justice and humanity. When the verdict was finally delivered, the court's recognition of the marriage and the couple's fitness to raise their child rang like thunder, breaking the silence of injustice. Catherine left defeated, confronted by the truth she had tried so hard to bury. Lily and Adam, hands clasped, walked out of the courtroom under stares filled with respect and awe. Elijah followed, his smile subtle, knowing this was only the first great victory. Winter had yielded to spring, and with it came a time of hope and rebuilding. Lily's belly grew each day, along with their certainty that, despite the external wars, peace was possible within their home. They prepared the baby's room, chose names with care, and dreamed of a future where love would triumph over fear and prejudice. The little house, simple and full of life, became a symbol of resistance. There, within walls that bore witness to struggle and faith, Adam, Lily, and Elijah prepared for a new chapter, an era still uncertain, but already glowing with promise. Under Princeton's vast sky, even with storms ahead, they knew that freedom and true love still had the strength to win. Autumn in Princeton painted its golden and crimson hues with the softness of a sigh. And in the heart of that season of transition, a new story was born. Not just the story of a baby, but of rebirth. A living tribute, an embodied poem Lily brought into the world with trembling hands and a burning heart. Little Jasmine, named in memory of the mother who gave everything and suffered more than words could express, became the invisible thread tying a painful past to a radiant future. A breath of hope that exhaled love, courage, and promise. Lily, still weary from labor, held her daughter with the tenderness of someone who understood that in that moment, she wasn't merely giving life to a child. She was giving voice to a woman who had never been heard. Jasmine was not just a name. She was a legacy of struggle, a poem written with tears and faith. "Her name is Jasmine," Lily whispered to Adam, her eyes glowing with sacred light. "So we never forget where we came from. And so her mother's courage lives in every beat of her heart." Adam, his face caught between shadow and light, wiped away a silent tear. "She carries the spirit of a warrior. Jasmine's flame will never be extinguished." But as love bloomed strong and gentle within that simple home, the shadows still lingered. Catherine Bucher did not cease her pursuit. Her bitterness was a storm with no rest, an ancient poison that refused to fade. "That child is a scandal," Catherine muttered, her voice soaked in envy and spite. "She's living proof of betrayal, a stain on the Bucher name." Yet Lily saw it all as another chapter in life's greater poem. Because for her, every tear shed, every sleepless night, every insult transformed into unwritten verses. Verses of redemption, of victory, of undying love. And in the quietest hours of night, Lily recited to little Jasmine a poem born of her soul, a chant that became both prayer and promise. "Jasmine, flower of my womb, heritage of struggles, strength and charm. In your eyes, I see the mother who never died. In your smile, the future that shines beyond tears. May your life be a verse that defies time, a light that tears through darkness with the brightness of the firmament." Those words were more than a lullaby. They were a weapon against imposed silence, a way to eternalize the truth that Catherine tried to bury. Adam, silent witness to Lily's poetry, felt the magnitude of that moment. He knew that child was more than a daughter. She was a sacred symbol carrying Jasmine's legacy and the dream of a future where love would triumph over resentment. But the battle was far from over. Catherine, driven by a hatred that seemed to corrode even her own soul, initiated a series of maneuvers to try to take the child from Lily and Adam's hands. She alleged emotional instability, moral incapacity, everything to justify an intervention that sounded cruel and inhumane. The walls of the small house became silent witnesses to nights of prayer, tears, and promises whispered between the couple. "If God is for us, who can be against us?" Lily repeated like a mantra. Elijah, the brother who was now part of the family, brought the light of youth to that somber scene. With the artistic sensitivity he had inherited from his mother, he helped compose a true ode to life and justice, seeking allies, documents, evidence, and testimonies that would strengthen the family's defense. In the days leading up to the trial, Lily wrote a poem that she spread among friends and allies, a way to make public her pain and hope, to show that this child was not a scandal but a blessing. Jasmine, daughter of courage, your name is prayer, your life is light. In the womb where you sang, freedom bloomed. And in the chest where you love, virtue was born. This poem was recited at meetings, circulated in local newspapers, and became a symbol of what they were fighting to protect. Not just custody of a child, but the preservation of a legacy of dignity and love. The day of judgment arrived with the weight of a silent storm. The courthouse, habitually austere, seemed charged with an almost palpable tension. Lily, dressed in yellow, carried in her arms the promise that had become a symbol, the promise of Jasmine reborn, of a future where truth and love would prevail. Adam was by her side, firm as a rock, ready to face the battle that was not just legal, but moral and spiritual. Catherine's words, cold and calculated, tried to paint Lily as an incapable and unstable woman. But each argument was dismantled by witnesses, by Jasmine's letters, by testimonies of those who had known the woman who gave her name to the child. The judge, a man with a severe gaze and just heart, listened attentively. He saw beyond accusations and defenses, capturing the silent poem that pulsed in that case, the poem of a family fighting to exist with dignity. When the verdict was finally announced, silence took hold of the room. The court recognized not only the couple's legitimacy to raise Jasmine, but exalted the courage and love that united them. Catherine's attempt to take the child was rejected with clear censure. Lily felt her heart explode in tears of relief and gratitude. She squeezed Adam's hand tightly and whispered, "Jasmine lives, Adam. She is our victory, our eternal poetry." Elijah, moved, joined them in an embrace that sealed not only the legal triumph but the survival of love and memory. In that moment between the courthouse walls, there was more than a sentence. There was a silent testimony to the indomitable strength that is born when a mother gives birth not only to a child, but to a story, a poetry, a hope. Lily knew that Catherine's shadow would still hover over them for a long time, But now that shadow had less power, because in each beat of little Jasmine's heart was the light of a mother, the sound of a poem that would never be silenced. And on that day, the poetry of life was reborn stronger than ever. Time, which seems to slide silent and impassive, brought to the small Bucher house a calm never before experienced. The life that had once been tumultuous, taken by shadows and storms of inheritances, intrigues, and legal battles, gradually found its own cadence, like a river that, after violent rapids, finally reaches the tranquility of the plains. On that spring morning, the sun penetrated through the fluttering curtains, casting golden drawings on the floor. In the garden, the perfume of flowers awakened ancient memories, while the singing of birds completed the symphony of rebirth. Lily, now a devoted mother, watched little Jasmine play under the attentive gaze of the new governess, Felicia. The girl, with her golden hair and curious eyes, smiled as she dodged the houseboy, a 10-year-old, the governess's son, who chased her in innocent play. The boy laughed loudly, his feet lightly tapping the porch floor, while Jasmine, with her 10 years of life full of dreams, ran with lightness and grace, fleeing the touch she didn't want to be caught by, but desired with sweetness. They danced in a choreography that was more than mere pastime. It was the expression of free childhood, of joy that insists on blooming even after the darkest nights. On the porch, Adam and Lily watched them hand in hand, their eyes intertwined in a complicit gaze full of hope. They smiled at each other silently, like those who recognize that, despite all battles, days had returned to having color and life. "It seems there's always a new beginning," Lily whispered, her voice trembling with contained emotion. Adam squeezed her hand, feeling the same warmth and the same certainty that this peace was a gift earned through hardship. This scene, simple in its beauty, carried the essence of what the Bucher family had always sought: a home where love was the sovereign law, where the ghosts of the past were finally tamed by the power of faith and unity. But rebirth didn't come without scars, and the story that closed the chapter already carried within it the echoes of promises made in the silence of long nights, where Lily wrote in her diary a poem dedicated to her daughter, a tribute to the mother who preceded her, the woman who was persecuted by Catherine even beyond death, but whose spirit was never broken. On those yellowed pages, with ink trembling under candlelight, Lily had let her words flow like a prayer, like a song of hope that crossed generations. "My little Jasmine, flower of my soul, you carry in your eyes the brightness of stars my mother couldn't see. You are the fruit of love that resisted storms, the living proof that injustice is not stronger than the truth of the heart. In you, my love, is born the courage I once needed. And may your life be a lighthouse for those still walking in darkness. May the pains we faced be seeds of a luminous tomorrow. And may you never forget, the blood that runs in you is the blood of those who fought and won." This poem was not just an expression of maternal love, but an anchor for the family, a constant reminder that, even in the darkest nights, the light of hope never goes out. Little Jasmine grew up surrounded by this invisible force, feeling the weight of her mother and father's battles, but also the lightness of childhood protected by Adam and Lily's unbreakable embrace. The governess Felicia, a wise woman with a generous heart, taught the girl about the goodness of the world, about the beauty of small things and the importance of faith. Days passed between household routines, the girl's studies, and Adam's work in law, which now focused on defending the less fortunate. A mission he embraced with fervor as a way to repair, somehow, the injustices that once almost destroyed his family. The bond between Elijah and Jasmine also flourished naturally. Elijah, with his artistic sensitivity, found in Jasmine inspiration for his drawings, often portraying scenes from his sister's childhood. The gardens, the illuminated windows of the house, and the promises of a future where justice and love would prevail. The war against Catherine Bucher, though ended in the courts, left marks difficult to erase. But Adam and Lily learned not to allow resentment to steal their conquered peace. They moved forward like silent warriors, building a different legacy, a legacy of love, redemption, and faith. And even with all the pain of the past, it was in Jasmine's smile, in Elijah's serene gaze, and in the comfort of home that Adam and Lily found the certainty that true love never dies. It only reinvents itself, always ready for a new beginning. At dusk, while the sky painted itself in orange and lilac tones, Adam and Lily sat again on the porch, hands intertwined, contemplating the children playing under the warm light of day's end. "Perhaps this is the beginning we always hoped for," Adam said, with a voice full of hope and serenity. Lily nodded, looking toward the horizon, where the sun slowly dove, but promising to shine again tomorrow. And so, in the silence charged with promises and rebirths, the Bucher story, made of pains, battles, losses, and victories, found its final chapter in this serene landscape, where love finally reigned absolute. The war had not ended, but they had won the first great battle. Time passed as great waters pass after the storm, not in silence, but with dignity. The house where Lily and Adam raised their daughter grew in history and memories, and each spring, the surrounding trees filled with flowers as if blessing that soil with the promise that nothing born of love can be destroyed, even when surrounded by hatred. Jasmine, the daughter, grew with curious eyes, her grandmother's restless soul and her parents' faithful heart, asking about the past with the serenity of one who knows she came from a lineage marked by pain, but washed in truth. Adam aged without ever losing the pride he had carried since boyhood, but it was beside Lily, in each wrinkle he saw on her face, that he found his peace, like one who returns home after years at sea and smells his own ground for the first time. Lily, in turn, became known as one who transformed ruins into shelter, not only in the home she built, but in the souls she touched with her firm tenderness, with her unshakable faith, and with the poetry she never stopped writing in the margins of her days. Felicia remained with them, faithful and wise, seeing her own children grow as Jasmine's siblings, in a house where walls were never fences, but bridges. Catherine Bucher died in solitude, in a cold mansion she never knew how to transform into a home. and in her last months of life, she sent an unanswered letter to her daughter-in-law asking for forgiveness, but it was too late to remake the paths she chose to destroy. Lily read the letter in silence and burned it, not out of anger, but for protection, like one who erases an ancient spell and refuses to allow the dead to guide the living. Elijah became a teacher, an architect of dreams and cities, regularly visiting the family and being called uncle with joy by little Jasmine. Gradually, ghosts gave way to memory, and memory, when well kept, transforms into blessing and not curse. On Sunday mornings, Lily would take her daughter to the porch and tell stories of the time when she was separated from Adam, of how he found her and how their love was, above all, an act of resistance against everything that was expected, imposed or controlled. Adam, already with silver hair, once wrote, "We were never saints nor martyrs, just two who decided to remain." And Lily, upon reading the phrase in his diary, smiled and replied, "Remaining is the greatest miracle." They didn't grow rich in gold, but had abundance in peace, and this made them rich in the eyes of those who understand that there are victories that don't make the newspapers, but are celebrated in the intimacy of a simple dinner, in the embrace at day's end, in the child who falls asleep without fear. Jasmine grew up and followed in her mother's and grandmother's footsteps, writing, researching, telling hidden truths of history, and whenever she published a new text, she dedicated it to the women of her lineage. For Lily, who was root, for Jasmine, who was seed. The old field where Adam and Lily played in childhood was bought by the local community and transformed into a public garden named Garden of Hope, with a stone bench in the center where was engraved, "Here love waited, and love returned." The last scene of this story is not of tears, but of light. One summer morning, Adam and Lily sit again on the porch, as so many times, and watch Jasmine walk through the garden with Felicia's son, both dreaming of inventing worlds and names of stars, while the wind lifts the leaves and carries in the air a scent of wet earth and promise. Adam holds Lily's hand, already marked by time, and without needing to look at her, says with a gentle smile, "It seems there's always a new beginning." And Lily, resting her head on his shoulder, replies, "And ours never ends." And then, like at the end of a great book that refused to lie, the page closes. But the characters, they live on. Because when a story is made of truth, courage and love, it never ends. It just begins again in those who hear it.